Welcome to the Rubric tour for week 2. Please have your rubric available for review as we are moving through the screencast. The rubric tour for week 2 is rather unique in that we're focusing on digital shell design, section 2 of the rubric, but we're not going to cover the entire section. This week we're going to look at parts A, B, and C. Next week we will look at the remaining parts of digital shell design. So in week 2, one of the packets we looked at was accessibility, and that is actually our first standard in digital shell design, which is course design indicates a conscious effort to comply with appropriate levels of accessibility according to Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. And we looked at various aspects of making our course more accessible within the accessibility packet. Some of the ways that we have tried to make our course more accessible, like for students with visual impairments, is that you will notice that our the contrast between the background and our fonts throughout the entire course is great enough to pass the standards with the tools that we talked about in our accessibilities presentation. It would accommodate for people with low vision so they would be able to read the text. We also accommodated for audio disabilities, so we tried to make as much text as possible true text rather than an image so that it was accessible to a screen reader. We also went through, and this is actually audio and visual, in that we created, when we created these presentations, we tried to provide a transcript or a script for the narration. So in the accessibilities folder in this presentation, a user could click on CC and they would be able to read the script. They could also access the original PowerPoint where we included the script with the transcript or the script for the narration in the notes section. We also accommodated for cognitive disabilities in that we tried very hard to take out any extraneous material that would be distracting to users. So the second standard in digital design is under layout and design is scrolling, and that scrolling is minimized. And we worked really hard on that. It's not completely eliminated. You will, when you go into a packet, have to scroll down through a variety of images and pieces of text. However, we did our very best to eliminate scrolling whenever possible. So for instance, when we embedded a document, we made it only 400 pixels high so that you wouldn't have to scroll on at this level, but you would scroll inside at this level if you were looking at that document. So that's how we made a conscious effort to eliminate scrolling. In addition to, like in week 2, we could have put all of the course content from these packets into one page, and you would have just scrolled from top to bottom to access all of the material. But instead, we decided to use one layer of folders to help us break up and contain the material. So standard 2 under layout and design, section B, is consistency. Consistent layout design orients users throughout the site. Instructor adheres to institutional design guidelines such as buttons, banners, etc. So we have worked really hard to model this standard in like our buttons. We believe that this is a good standard approach to buttons. Everything within this top category has to do with the course in general. This middle category has to do with the work of the course, and these are other resources. We hope that people use this approach with the buttons. We also tried to standardize the design and presentation during every week. I'm in edit mode right now, but when I take it off, you should be able to, this is what you are used to looking at. And we tried to break things up with banners so that there was a distinct break in content. We also tried to have the same basic approach, the same basic design throughout. Even with the banners, we use the same kind of packets within each week. The packets would have a link that you can enter through, but they also have a digital image here that would break up the different packets. But then when you click on the link to go inside of it, you actually have the picture repeated so that you know that you went into the right folder. And then within each week, we try to standardize the presentation of materials within there. Like, you have probably noticed that you see a to-do banner in every packet. So the next standard is fonts, and that has actually been one of our hardest standards to meet. The standard is that font type, size, and color are readable and consistent throughout the site. We feel that our fonts are consistently readable, but making them actually consistent and the same throughout the site has been confusing because we originally decided to use Tahoma, but the preset for Blackboard is Arial. So we had this mixture of Tahoma and Arial, which we then had to go back in and standardize, and we decided to just go with the standard Blackboard font because it made it easiest for us, and we actually encourage you to do that as well. Then the next standard within layout and design is internal and external links when possible. Material is embedded, so students do not need to go outside of Blackboard. We've worked really hard to do that. So you'll notice, like in this packet, we embedded a YouTube video that we did not create, but we made it visible right here. We also embedded this narrated presentation, and so students can just click on this and watch it within Blackboard without having to exit Blackboard. And when they exit Blackboard, students tend to get confused or have a hard time getting back to where they were. It's basically creating a lot more work and confusion than we need to. So we're done with section B of the rubric. The last section that we're going to focus on this week is C, links and navigation. Hyperlink identity. The standard is navigation cues are present, consistent, and obvious links are based on visual cues such as color, underlining, and text directives like start here. So the links in Blackboard are automatically differentiated as links. They're underlined. The color is slightly different. So the most important thing when you're making these linkable materials is that you don't mess with the design so that it's not clear that it's a link. But what's really important about this standard is that you include information, the tags that say what to do and when. What do they need to click on? Like, click on the underlined link above to go to discussion board. So they get the information from the underlined, but if they didn't know the underline meant link, they would know from these directions that they are to click on this in order to access the discussion board. And then hyperlink function is the last standard that we'll be looking at this week. And that standard is that the course has no broken links. So for instance, this link right here, if I clicked on it, I should be able to get to wherever that's supposed to lead me. The first time you create a course, you don't necessarily have to worry as much about broken links. But as you reuse a course or the course progresses, you need to keep checking those links to make sure that they are active and working. If you don't, it just creates a lot of frustration on the part of your students and a delay when they're trying to contact you to tell you that they can't use it, and then you have to get the email and go back in and fix it. It's just unnecessary difficulty added to the class if you don't make sure that your hyperlinks are working. So that is week 2 rubrics tour. Thank you for joining us for the screencast.